Mr. Bisignano, it's a pleasure to have you here today. I appreciate you taking some time off from your other job as a Social Security Administrator to talk to us about the operations of the Internal Revenue Service. This weekend, I met with just over 100 members of the Culinary Workers Union, Local 226, to discuss the implications of no tax on tips. While there, I had a chance to talk with Leslie, who's a bartender on the Las Vegas Strip. Her husband also works in hospitality. Like many couples who work in Nevada's hospitality and tourism sector, they both earn tips for a living and they filed their taxes jointly. And when they heard no tax on tips, they thought, great, Washington is finally listening. But then they read the details and learned that the deduction is temporary, married couples face a filing penalty, and automatic gratuities may not qualify. And Leslie asked me a question that cuts right to the heart of this hearing. If this was supposed to help workers like us, why wasn't it written with workers like us in mind? So with Leslie's story top of mind, I'm going to ask you just a few yes or no questions. The promise of no tax on tips should apply to every worker who earns tips and pays taxes, right? Yes or no?
No tax on tips.
Yes or no, so?
No tax on tips.
Can you please answer my question? Is the promise of no tax on tips, should it apply to every worker who earns tips and pays taxes? Yes or no?
I think it should.
Thank you. As the deduction is currently structured,
rules on
some
how to
married
file.
tip workers face a marriage penalty. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
As the deduction is currently structured, some married tip workers face a marriage penalty. Is that correct?
I don't know that fact.
It is. Unlike the tax breaks provided for billionaires and corporations, the relief provided to working families via the no tax on tips deduction is temporary. Is that correct? Yes or no?
Oh, that's a temporary deduction, yes.
If an employer shifts from tips to service charges or automatic gratuities, that income may not qualify under the deduction. Is that correct? Yes or no?
It may not.
So under federal law, tip workers can still be paid as little as $2.13 for their work. Is that correct?
I don't know that number.
That is the current sub-minimum wage, as sad as it is. So what I'm hearing is that the promise of no tax on tips, and frankly, the other so-called working family tax cuts that are in the so-called one big betrayal of a bill, does not fully match or respond to the realities that workers and their families are experiencing. The promise of no tax on tips does not fully work for workers like Leslie and her husband. That's exactly why I've introduced the Tips Improvement Act to make tip tax relief permanent, inclusive for all workers, and protected from employer manipulation. Because if we're going to say no tax on tips, it should actually work for the people who live on tips. And that includes workers like Leslie in Las Vegas. Congress also passed the no tax on overtime last year. But like no tax on tips, the devil is always in the details. So again, yes or no, do airline employees, railroad workers, and school bus drivers qualify for no tax on overtime? Yes or no?
I don't know.
You do not know. Okay, the answer is no, they do not. 3 million workers who typically work overtime are currently ineligible for no tax on overtime. That's why I've worked with Representative Malatakis to introduce the No Tax on Overtime for All Workers Act to ensure that this program is expanded to include these essential workers. Would you be willing to work with my colleague and I to support this no tax on overtime for the 3 million workers who are missing out on that provision?
I'm more than happy to.
Great. I look forward to working with you on that as well. Let me conclude by touching on the issue you didn't want to talk about at the beginning of the hearing, but it does fall within the IRS. As you know, the IRS holds the most sensitive financial data in the federal government. We're talking about Social Security numbers, banking information, and income records for over 160 million taxpayers. The expectation for the American people is that the IRS will protect their personal information. And as you also know, Under President Trump's watch, DOJ shared the Social Security data without agency officials' knowledge and in violation of security protocols. So with your IRS hat on, why should the taxpayer trust you to protect their most sensitive information when you weren't able to do it over the SSA?
First and foremost, I've spent my career protecting PAII, and I've protected it in any job I've ever had, including my current responsibilities. I don't think your facts are accurate.
So it's not accurate that millions of Americans' personal identifiable information, including Social Security information and other vital information, was leaked by DOJ? Yes or no?
No.
It was not. Despite the fact that the Trump administration's own counsel in court records had to admit to that fact, you still won't take responsibility for that information on behalf of millions of Americans. It's the biggest data breach in U.S. history, in my estimation.
Your estimation's inaccurate, but thank you.
Well, what's not inaccurate is that people do not feel that their information is being protected by this administration. And it is something that you, in both of your hats, as IRS CEO and as the administrator of Social Security, should take more seriously. With that,
take it
I yield back.